Hey guys, we're just gonna wait for some people to come in, and then also I've just invited our amazing author. There she is. Hi. Hi, welcome, welcome. Thank you so much. Sorry for switching over.
Totally
Instagram,
fine. Stuff happens. Instagram's always a mess, so I'm not surprised.
it's yeah, changing the rules on me literally a day before. It's great.
Of course. Of course.
Anyway, let me see. Okay, we've got some people coming in, which is amazing. Thank you guys so much. This will be our Campfire Chats with Ivy Marie. And we're very excited to have you here.
Thank
Thank you
you
so
so
much.
much.
Thanks so much for joining us. I'm first going to give you a tiny bit of an introduction, and then we're going to have some questions. Um, I am Melissa. I am one of the counselors from Camp YA, which we've been doing for the past 5 years now, which is amazing. And I'm so happy to be able to do these lives now. You're our very first author for these lives, which I'm very excited for. Amazing. Ivy Marie is the author of dark, emotional YA fantasy. Her debut novel, Immortal Consequences, kicks off the Souls of Blackwood Academy series, a magical high-stakes story set in purgatory, where six morally grey teens fight for a second chance at life. And the story is beautifully written and full of magic, tension, and longing, with amazing world building and fascinating characters. So I'm very
Oh,
excited to have you.
thank you. That was a lovely introduction. Thanks.
You're very welcome. I guess my first question to you would be, would you prefer me to call you Ivy or Isa?
Um, Issa or Ivy is fine. Issa is what usually people who know me. I say both usually. So whatever you prefer.
All right. So amazing, Isa. Thank you so much for joining us. And well, I've done a little bit of introduction. Would you mind to tell us a little bit more about yourself personally?
Oh, sure. So I'm originally from Miami. So I grew up in Miami, Florida. My mom's Peruvian, my dad's Chilean. I have been living in LA for almost 8 years now. I'm currently dealing with a heat wave. It is so hot here right now. Um, and yeah, I mean, I've been kind of writing my whole life in some form or another. I wrote a lot of fan fiction and short stories when I was a kid, as a lot of us did. And then I actually got into songwriting for a few years. But it took me a while to kind of realize what I really loved, and the thing that actually brought me the most joy was writing fiction and writing stories. And yeah, and then a few years ago, I kind of got the idea for Immortal Consequences, and it kind of snowballed from there. And here we are.
That's amazing. Yeah, no, I've also dabbled in the fan fiction world, many years ago. I think we all
Sure.
do.
Yeah.
So that's a really beautiful way to go into it. And I guess also kind of rolls into my question of
Mhm.
how your journey was as a writer from like the moment you had your idea to like your story.
Now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of a whirlwind. So in 2020, kind of during COVID, that's when I started really just kind of dabbling in writing stories again. I had written, years before, but it had been a while since I had kind of just allowed myself to write for fun without the expectation that it would be anything. So at the time, I didn't even think I was going to attempt to get published. I was just wanting to write because it was something that brought me joy and I found really fun. So I spent basically 2020 to 2022 kind of regaining that writing muscle. I started and stopped countless ideas and just kind of regained that like love and passion for writing. And then in May of 2022, I kind of first got that initial seed of an idea for Immortal Consequences, which was essentially just magical school in the afterlife. And once that initial idea popped in, I could tell immediately that it was different. I just kind of started writing. In like 3 to 4 months, I had the first draft. But yeah, at the time, I had been working in retail for almost 10 years. I knew really nothing about how to become an author. So I did have to Google how to become an author because I had no idea. And I learned about the querying process and getting a literary agent. So that's kind of once I had the initial draft, and I spent a few months editing it with, some other writer friends that I'd met online and, just myself going through revisions. That's when I started reaching out to literary agents. I got a few offers, but I think ultimately when I talked to my agents that I have now, I could just like tell that it was different. Like I instantly kind of connected with them. And yeah, we edited the book a bit more together, and then we went on submission, and I was really lucky that it went into an auction situation. But ultimately, the people who I not only connected with the most, but had the best offer, but also I just like genuinely love my editor so much was Delacorte. And yeah, that's how we ended up with the book deal.
Amazing. And then also, so you're best-selling author for both New York Times and USA Today, right?
Mhm.
But
Yeah,
also internationally, because now in the UK you're number one on the
I know.
children's like market, but also number two on the UK market. It's
Yeah.
insane. Well
I
done.
know. I thank you. I like when I got the email, I was freaking out. I could not believe it. Yeah, it's kind of hard to wrap my head around it.
So, are we getting more books around the world translated?
Yeah, we actually have, oh, I think it's roughly like 14 translations already kind of locked in. So those will start trickling in over the next few months. I'm always like announcing, everything online, but I'm pretty sure like French is coming, Spanish is on the way, German's already out. Um, but yeah, I have like the full list of translations on my Instagram. But yeah, super exciting. I mean, that's for me so special to like be able to not only like share story with, readers, but readers around the world and like kind of, you know, breaking down that language barrier and being able to share the story with others is so infinitely cool. Like that is just, yeah, such a cool experience.
No, that's super amazing. I mean, which is why we were really happy that you wanted to come on with us as well, because we've had watchers from over 15 countries. So
Oh,
hopefully some of them will be able to enjoy your book in their languages as well. Which, going back to the book, could you explain the story in 5 words and slightly explain the 5 words?
ooh, okay, so just like five random words.
Hmm.
I would say grief, because that is kind of like the core theme of the book and kind of the heart of the book. I would say yearning, because there's a lot of it. And I feel like every character is either yearning for someone or something the entire time. Um, hmm, secrets, because everyone has their own secrets and their own motivations that may or may not be revealed in the book. And that's like just, everyone has their secrets for wanting to win the decennial. Um, ooh, what else? I would say like friendship, but
Hmm.
this kind of twisted, maybe not conventional friendship. I would say it's like kind of this unlikely found family dynamic that these characters have, because a lot of them are selfish and morally gray and maybe not the best friends that you could have, but they still, still kind of love each other in a weird way. And then I would say power, because I think it's also very much a book about like who deserves to have power and how does that change you, and who decides who can have it. So yeah, I would say those are the 5 words.
Amazing. Yeah, I mean, I think it's also not just power as in their magical powers, but also
Right.
like the power within themselves and
Hmm.
how they deal with things,
Yeah.
which I think you've done beautifully.
Oh, thank
Um, Honestly, I finished the book in like a day because I was like, I had to go, 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 go.
you. Thanks.
Um, okay, so I guess you told me a little bit about what inspired you to write Immortal Consequence, but do you have like one specific thing where you were like, yes, this is why I'm going to start writing this story?
Honestly, it was kind of like a combination of a few things. One, I always knew I wanted my debut book to be the Magical Academy trope. That's just something that I always really connected with growing up, and like knew that I wanted as a reader, but I wanted to find a way to create like a unique kind of dark spin to it, just because that's what I gravitate towards media, is things that are maybe a little dark, a little gothic, a little weird. Um, and then on top of that, I really wanted to create a setting that felt very claustrophobic. It felt very insular, like these students were existing in this, liminal bubble, and that not only were the characters trapped, but as readers read, they almost feel trapped at this school as well. So I wanted to convey that feeling. And also, like I mentioned, I'm originally from Miami, but I went to school in Boston, and I spent a very shocking cold winter for the first time ever in my life. And I can remember like walking at night. It was like right before a blizzard. It was snowing. I was like walking among like the ivy drenched campuses at night. And it was like, the moon was like peeking through the branches, and it felt very cold and isolating, but at the same time, really ethereal and beautiful. And that feeling that I had when I was walking there, I wanted to put it in a book.
Hmm.
So that was kind of how it happened.
I think you've done that beautifully because I can definitely, like you telling me this story, I'm like, yeah, I can definitely tell a lot of these elements within the book. So
Oh, yay.
amazing. Um, so in the book, death is not the end,
Mhm.
but initiation into a darker, more dangerous kind of learning. And like, what drew you to explore knowledge, memory, and ambition through the lens of the afterlife?
Ooh, that's a great question. I think there's just something inherently interesting about the concept of eternity and like what you would do if you were handed eternity or who you would love. And I think being able to play around with these very human emotions and feelings, like you're saying, ambition, obsession, love, with the added element of eternity just felt like for me, not only as something I would want to read, but something I myself would want to explore as a writer. Um, and at the same time, I think also making it a young adult book for me is something that, I always say being a young adult now is obviously different than being a young adult, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. But at the same time, there is this like core universal experience of being a teen. And I feel like that's like an emotional core that despite how much time passes, continues to resonate with everyone, which is just that, everything feels like the end of the world. Everything, the stakes are so high no matter what you're doing or what's happening. And I feel like having that connecting thread with me and like the readers is something I find really special. And I think being able to incorporate those themes and have that connection with those readers in this world of like even higher stakes of like there is this eternity, but there's also it's not eternal. Like there is this ticking time clock in the back of all of the characters' minds. It just creates for me, I think, such a fun dynamic as a writer to be able to explore these themes that already are kind of a universal human experience with this like added, high stakes layer.
Yeah. No, that's yeah, that's amazing. Um, with six characters vying for one spot
Yeah.
through intense magical trials, how did you balance like developing the multiple VOV with maintaining the narrative momentum?
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge. I like, there's moments where I was like, oh gosh, what have I gotten myself into? But I knew from the beginning it had to have six POVs. I knew it was like a decisive, like not everyone loves multi POV, but I know for myself and like these characters, if I wanted to tell the story as genuine as possible, if I wanted to tell the story in the way that I knew it had to be told, I had to include all six characters. So that was kind of a decision I kind of stuck with from the beginning. And ultimately I just want to make sure that every character's point of view that you're getting in every chapter you're getting them for a reason. They are pushing the plot forward, and maybe they're not specifically doing something, but there is information you're discovering, and for some reason being in this character's head when that information is discovered is particularly interesting or particularly, it can create conflict. Like having those things in mind as I'm choosing who to write next was something I was like actively thinking about as I was writing. And I also wanted every character to have like a valid motivation for wanting to win the decennial, to the point where as a reader, even though you might have your favorite or your favorites that you're rooting for, you can see where everyone's coming from, and a part of you can be like, oh, like yeah, I kind of want them to win for that reason, or I kind of want them to win for that reason, where I ultimately want you to feel conflicted because they're conflicted, and I want you to feel that same kind of tension that they have as they decide, how they're gonna win. So that's kind of what I was actively thinking about as I was writing.
Amazing. Yeah, no, I think you did like the information that we get from the book, because obviously there's a lot of information that we get because you're setting up an entirely new world with a new magic system and all of that. But I think you've done that so seamlessly because it never once felt like you did information dump. Like,
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I mean that's the goal, obviously. Like I want it to feel palatable and I want it to feel easy to digest without it being like doled out to you in a silver platter. So finding that balance can be tricky sometimes. But yeah, I'm glad it sounds like it it worked.
no, at least for me, like I am not someone that always loves multiple POVs.
Yeah, totally.
But I have to say, with your book, like I never felt the issue of being like, oh, but like I want to hear more about that one and
Yeah.
stick there.
Yeah. Yeah.
It felt very seamless, which,
Oh,
amazingly done.
thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Um, Talking about the characters, did you have a favorite character to write? Like my favorite character is obviously Ren, because
Mhm.
during Camp Boyer, we also have a Camp Boyer Cup, and I am Team Ren. So
Oh my God. I love that.
But yeah, and I absolutely love like the bond between Ren and August to see
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was wondering if you had a favorite character to write.
Well, they're kind of like my children, so
Mm.
it's hard for me to pick a favorite. I don't know if I particularly have a favorite, but I have definitely, like you're saying, dynamics that were really fun to write. August and Ren, I mean, how can you not love writing them? They're just so like I mean, the tension, the banter, the kind of push and pull between them is just so. As a writer, I mean, it's so fun to write. But I will say I have a very big soft spot for Emilio. He's
Mm.
like I call him my low key self insert character because he's like the one person who's reacting like a normal person would in this scenario, like freaking out 24/7, being like is anyone else seeing this? Like, what do you mean we're all just supposed to act normal right now? And I feel like that's how I would probably react if I was put into a dangerous competition in the afterlife. So, yeah, I have a soft spot for him. I just like love him dearly. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like I genuinely have like something from each character that I just love. So it's hard for me to pick a favorite exactly.
That's fair. I
Yeah.
mean, we do love our cinnamon roll,
Yeah, I know.
I have to say, I was very much rooting for them too, where I was just like, yes, please.
I
Hello.
know. I know. I love them. I love them so much. People are always like, please don't hurt them. And I'm like, all I can say is I love them just as much as you do. So just, keep that in mind.
Good. I mean, hopefully that means that, they don't hurt too bad. Because I
I
find it
can't
interesting
not
as well.
promise emotional pain. Like that's kind of like my brand. So, but I love them. Just know that.
As long as they can live on with their emotional pain, I am
Right.
happy.
Right. Right. I'll keep that in mind.
Okay. Um, which would be your preferred magic to like excel in?
Ooh. No one's asked me that before. I would say honestly, a part of me has always loved the concept of elemental magic, and I think there's just something. It's like not super practical, I guess, I don't know. It's just like really cool. I think it might be like my like Avatar: The Last Airbender like fangirl in me, and also just like this is very specific and niche. But did you ever watch Sky High?
I have not
The
know.
Okay, it's like a old Disney movie, but there's a character in it who can control like plants, and I always thought she was so cool. So I would say probably the like elemental magic would be mine. Mhm.
Yeah, I have to say, my first thought was that as well, because I also grew up with Winx Club. Um,
Yes, similar
and
vibe.
like, so that was amazing. And also we had like Witch. I don't know if you know that one, but it was like
Mhm. Yeah, yeah,
the comic. Love that one. But yeah, so elemental magic was my first thought. But then I looked more into it and I was like, no, 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 I would like to have corporeal magic because like
yeah.
that feels like the best thing to have.
Corporeal would be really cool. Like you would be like really, you know what I mean? You can like really fight people. But I'm like, would I be fighting people on a day-to-day basis? Like probably not. Like I don't know. You know what I mean? I'm just like a So
Yeah.
I think there's a reason for each one.
No, definitely. I guess if you put it in that way, like if I were into real world, then yes, elemental magic would be
Yes.
the easiest because you don't have to have heating because you can just have your fire magic. That makes
Right. Yeah.
or cool down with a little bit of water. It's great.
Right. Right. It's
Would be
all
great for you to
practical.
have in your heat.
Yes, I know, right? Right now I would use some elemental magic.
I think there's some people in the comments that did watch Sky High.
Yes, I see Sky High lovers in there. Thank
Yeah.
you for for knowing what my brain is talking about. I love it. It's like this like I don't know. I feel like it's kind of popular. I feel like enough people have watched it, but yeah, I loved that movie growing up.
Maybe it was more of a US thing and we didn't get it in
Yeah,
Europe. I don't know.
maybe.
I'm gonna definitely look it up
Yeah.
after tonight. Um, Let me see. I guess because we're almost out of time,
Mhm.
I'm going to ask you a couple more questions, and then I saw one question that I want to ask from the audience. Was there a scene that ended up on the chopping block that you absolutely loved?
Ooh. Like that it got removed or was
Yeah.
it like oh, okay. Yeah. Honest, I always say this. There was like I probably would have had like 300 more pages of August and Ren banter. Like I had
Yes,
to
please.
like I had to take out a lot because as much as I would love the book to be like 1200 pages of them like looking at each other from across the room and like their hands brushing occasionally, I do have to have like plot and momentum in the story. So
Oh,
you know like you have to. So yeah, I will say there were moments between them that I wish I could have expanded even further and had even more scenes. But yeah, it would have eventually like bogged down the momentum, I think. So yeah, I would just say a lot more then.
you can do like a little novella,
Yeah,
like the in-between
that's an idea.
stories.
It's an idea. We'll see.
No, I would absolutely love that and devour it because like I'm a sucker for any of that romantic tension.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
You're currently working on the sequel,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Has the writing, the follow-up, changed the way you see the characters or the world that you created?
Ooh. I've always known from the beginning how the series was going to end. I'm very much a discovery writer, so a lot of the stuff that happens in between is a mystery that I resolve as I write. But I've always known not only how the first book was going to end, but I've always known how the second book was going to end in terms of the fate of the six. Like
Mm.
I knew exactly how their stories were each going to end. So that in itself wasn't surprising. But I will say yeah, it was I was mainly surprised how emotional I got writing the sequel. Like I always knew like I never cried while writing. I've heard authors be like, "Oh, like I've cried like while writing a character death or like a really sad scene." And I was like, I don't know. I feel like I'm like pretty like I'm like I am working right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I found myself getting really emotional writing some scenes at the end of the sequel that happened. And like kind of in my own way, I guess on the topic of grief, like mourning these characters, like I'm like, oh, this has been a part of my life for 3 years now, and I'm reaching the end of that, which is like sad. It's really special and beautiful, but it's also kind of sad. So yeah, I think I was just surprised by how like emotionally connected I actually got into these characters, and yeah, but I am also at the same time really excited for like their full story to be out there because obviously we end on a pretty big cliffhanger, and the thing that I've always loved about these characters is their full character arcs, and I'm really excited for those to be out in the world.
So book two is going to be the end.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a duology.
Amazing. So I saw one question there where I was like, if you could describe, because I'm assuming you can't talk a lot about book two yet, but if you could describe book two in one song, what would it be?
Ooh, one song. Okay, hold on. I have like my Spotify open. I don't know. I don't know if I can pick like a specific song. There is a song that I listen to while writing all the time called On the Nature of Daylight. It's from the soundtrack from the movie Arrival. It's
Mhm.
this really like gut-wrenching, like dramatic, nostalgic song that actually it feels like it's so emotionally intense when you listen to it. And I will say that's kind of the feeling of the second book, especially like especially like the second half. Um, yeah, very intense, emotional, kind of like the world is ending vibes. So
I mean, that sounds like we've got a
I'm just gonna
big
put
book
that out there.
where I'm definitely going to be crying, I think, with the next book.
I cannot confirm nor deny.
I think there's some people in the chats that really think that is a beautiful song.
It's so good. If you haven't listened to it, like add it. Like it's on my writing playlist, and I listen to it all the time. I listen to it a lot for the first book, also, like especially the third act. But yeah, it's one of my favorites.
Amazing. And then I guess for a last question, I could talk to you all like night for me, morning
Thanks.
for you.
Yeah. No, I'd love
Um,
to.
honestly, there's so many more questions. I might even just send you an email and be like, hey, can you answer these?
I got you.
Um, what is the one feeling that you want people to take away from this series?
Um, I think, I think there's two parts to this. One, I would say, fantasy. I was a fangirl before I was a writer. Fantasy books have always meant so much to me, and I found so much comfort and solace in fantasy worlds and escaping into fantasy worlds, and like a sense of community that maybe I was lacking when I was a teen. And I think if I can offer readers that same kind of all-consuming, sweeping feeling when reading the book, and like they can find a home within, these characters, I feel like my job as an author is done. Like if they can find that same sense of comfort and escapism and just that like kind of all-consuming feeling you have when you read a fantasy book that you love, that's just like what I want them to take away from it. And then I would also say, like I mentioned, it's very much a book about grief and grieving not only the people you've lost, but the people, but like the person you were when that person was around. You're grieving the future that you could have had. And there's a quote in the book that I feel like is like the emotional core that I hope people will take with them, which is grief isn't the villain. It just wants to remind you that despite losing someone, despite the sadness, heartache, and loss, there was also once love. And I feel like that's like the emotional core I hope people will take away from it.
Well, I could definitely say when I read that, I had to cry.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's, I think ultimately that's again one of those emotional things I think universally, no matter where you're from, like who you are, it's something that you experience. And I think being able to have, I don't know, being able to connect with people on that level, despite being like miles away or being, in completely different places is, yeah, it's one of the most special things I think about being a writer. So
Amazing. Well, then, I want to thank you so much for coming to talk to me
thank
and
you.
being on Camp YA. I hope to see you again at some point, and I wish you all the best with writing your second book. And I think you have a tour coming up as well.
I just finished my US tour. So now I'm in my resting phase. But yeah, we'll see. Maybe there are some other things coming up. So
Maybe at some point you'll come to the UK.
maybe it's a possibility.
Amazing. I know that there will be lots of people who would like to see you. I'll
Yeah, that'd be
definitely
awesome.
try to be there as well then.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you so much. And yeah, wish you all the best.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for having me here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. All right,
Bye
guys. Bye.
everyone.